What's going on, everybody? I am here with the fantastic Jill from Destination Linux, one of the amazing co-hosts on the show, and I am so glad she's here because her taste in games is amazing.
Oh,
So, Jill, how about you tell people what kind of like your general interests are? I mean, I know that, but for those that don't,
um, so for in gaming, okay. So I like first-person puzzlers, first-person exploration games, parkour games, and surreal games. Yeah, so it covers so such a wide gamut of games, but it all flowed down because of Portal. Portal was, the birth of the first-person puzzler.
Mhm,
So
definitely
I
was.
have a big portal cube behind me with the turret. And that's always been my favorite element in games is the puzzles and the atmosphere and beautiful artistic, just very modern but minimal at the same time.
Mhm.
One of my favorite games is Cairo,
Oh, nice.
and the other is Antechamber, and they're first-person puzzlers, but with definitely an artistic feel to them. In fact, I teach computer animation and motion graphics, and a lot of my students want to go into gaming. So I make sure that they're exposed to those very artistic and surreal games that work real well, but have some really nice puzzle elements to keep the flow going, or a nice story.
And that's the thing I loved about like your taste in games because I remember there was a video or a recommendation that I made a while ago that you had talked about. I believe I made the recommendation of Valley.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's one of my favorites, yes.
And you had mentioned that you just love like the atmospheric type of gameplay and just the way that the world's built and the kind of the artistic design to it. So,
Mhm.
with these being tailored game recommendations that we both try, I had recommended that we try Skybreak. Now,
Yeah.
Skybreak came out in 2016, so this is an older game. Does not require the most high-end hardware to run. This episode of GameSphere is brought to you by DigitalOcean and their app platform. DigitalOcean's app platform service is a solution to build modern cloud-native apps. Use a simple, intuitive, visually rich experience to rapidly build and deploy, manage, and scale apps. Support for Node.js, Python, Go, PHP, Ruby, static sites, Docker, and container images. It's highly scalable, zero infrastructure management. What does that mean? Well, you simply point to your GitHub or GitLab repositories and let App Platform do all the heavy lifting. It handles the infrastructure, app runtimes, dependencies so that you can push code to production in just a few clicks. It gives you secure apps so they create, manage, renew your SSL certifications, and also protect your apps from DDoS attacks. Run code with little to no customization. App Platform uses open cloud-native standards and automatically analyzes your code, creates containers, and runs them on Kubernetes clusters. As a listener of GameSphere podcast and a member of the DLN community, you can get started for free, actually better than free, because DigitalOcean is giving you a $100 credit when you go to do.co/DLN. Again, go to do.co/DLN to get started with your $100 free credit on DigitalOcean's new app platform. We want to thank DigitalOcean for sponsoring this episode of GameSphere. So the thing that I love about this is from the developers who made Farsky,
Yay.
also Skybreak, obviously, and they made another game called The Free Ones. Unfortunately, the studio did go belly up. I wanted to highlight this particular game because it's all about the atmosphere with this game, and
Yes.
like you had mentioned, it has that minimalist aesthetic to it, but it's
Mhm.
also got almost a minimalist sound. And one of the first things you'll notice with like the minimalist sound is kind of the as soon as you boot up the game is the audio is just it's a simple piano intro.
Yeah,
There's not a lot
really
of like
beautiful.
with this type of game, you normally think like synth heavy kind of game as far as like soundtrack, and it's not. It is very minimal in its kind of ambient musical score, and it's really
Yeah,
really cool.
it's ambient. It's got a really beautiful use of sound effects as well.
Yeah, it does.
You discover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things like the mechs, like like on screen you'll see a little robot
The
floating
mechas.
around. Yeah,
Make a
And
cute little woo.
yeah, and then like the only criticism I really have on the sound is maybe the lack of voice acting, but it kind of makes sense.
It works for this game.
It does.
Yeah. And the text pop-ups are really easy to read and understand.
Mhm.
So they did a good job at conveying that without having to use voice.
They did. And like you'll see here, like you always have these constant reminders on for like what buttons do what. Now, you can use this can be considered a controller criticism, is the controller works, but it kind of doesn't. It's a little wonky. Like if you manually set it up, it works fine. It's the auto detection doesn't necessarily work. I did not try the controller configuration stuff within Steam. I tried default.
Okay.
Because I wanted to try the default experience for it, and wasn't great. It's usable once you remap some stuff and everything. Typical kind of half-baked PC version of controller support there.
Yeah.
But
well, it did say it had partial controller support, which I hadn't tried because I use everything, WASD and mouse.
Yeah. PC gamer to get core.
Yeah. No, I will use a controller like for really good like 2D platformers and that kind of thing. Yeah. Because where you need a lot of twitch.
Yeah.
In a movement. But I prefer keyboard and mouse.
Yep. The WASD person all day. I totally get it. But if you guys look at the interface here that's I have on screen, is like it'll tell you what keys you need to have for, your inventory is a tab, R is the U, is aim is literally just the mouse one. Right. Yeah. Or, if you want to get closer, it's, right click for a more aimed charge shot kind of deal. It's really easily usable as far as controls.
Yeah. I was really happy that they had, the little hints there, so you didn't have to go around searching for them. It was really intuitive.
It was. Then like you mentioned, the pop-ups, they work with the aesthetic of the game too. Like on here, you'll see it's E to interact with anything if you're using the keyboard. And the nice thing with that is it's literally just, and it'll bring up an aesthetic portion I have up where it gives you the save or call Skylift. And it's just, it fits the aesthetic of the overall game is what I really like. Now, the animations, they're not terrible. They're very the time of the version of Unity that they were using.
Yeah. Just quick fades usually.
It works for the game. This game is, it's really hard for me to really say what makes it so good. And I think it's really just the atmosphere. There are elements you can nitpick and kind of all the other stuff, but everything just kind of ties together to make it work. And I think that's because the vision of like the studio as a whole, because if you played any of their prior games, that would, if you played Far Sky, if you played the free ones, the whole thing is atmosphere. Yeah. That's really what it's about. And that's how they design stuff.
Yeah. It's thematically, it's the theme is the same throughout. There's no like paper cuts of, wrong icons or the graphics being off. It's really themed really nicely and cohesive. The other thing I was going to tell you, this is actually cool, Matt, that you chose this one for me, is because survival games aren't necessarily my favorite. They really aren't.
Ironic.
Yeah, you picked it right, because it's for me, it's about the atmosphere and the artistry and the of the fun of going through a game. So yeah, survival games aren't necessarily my favorite, but a good science fiction one with really good exploration and a good story, I do enjoy. And speaking of that point, this one is inspired by and very similar to No Man's Sky, which is one of my favorites in the genre. And No Man's Sky was released the same year, 2016. So a whole lot of sci-fi survival games came out around that same time because of all the excitement around No Man's Sky. Yeah. And this one was no exception.
When you compare those two, you can almost see kind of a similarity. Not so much in design.
Yeah.
But
Aesthetics. Yeah.
aesthetics. So the story for this game is it's not complicated. It's not overly wrought. It's pretty straightforward. Humanity was decimated by a disease. You were out on a planet to find essentially the cure, and then your ships with your scientist friends get shot with a bunch of lightning, and you crash land. That is pretty much, and then your job is to get the cure and go home. That's the story. There's more to it, obviously, but for the most part, that's pretty much the storyline. Like what you'll see on screen right now is I'm looking out at the observation deck. If you look up at the sky, one of the things I loved is kind of like the color palette.
Oh yeah, they use that sunset.
Yeah, because you got like the sun up here with like an asteroid field kind of going through it, but you also have like the nebula up over in the corner that just kind of gives it that very sci-fi feel.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is something that like that's just like a small touch that I can really appreciate.
Yeah.
Now you can do weird, silly things like, oh hey, look, I'm up in the sky lift. I just jumped all the way down to the ground.
Yeah. The great glass elevator.
And you have died.
Yes. Yeah. One thing I did try is jumping off the space station onto the ground, and I just wanted to see will the game actually let you do that? Because in the early years of No Man's Sky, you couldn't do things like that. And in this one you can.
Yep. They totally let you, and they're like, you've died. That freedom that they give is really cool. Another thing that I liked with the kind of the freedom aspect is you kind of get multiple pets. You don't get like one. You get
kitty bots.
You do. So you have the floating eyeball mecha there that follows you around, that kind of gives you hints and is actually part of the gameplay to give you when you explore, and kind of keeps track of where like key things are for you. It's basically like a sonar robot. It's an interesting mechanic.
Yes. And I was gonna say the interacting with the mechas, it reminded me somewhat of Horizon Zero Dawn, actually.
Oh, the hacking, yeah.
Yeah, the hacking. And so it's that's what makes this one of the reasons it makes this one kind of unique is for a survival exploration game, is that you can, hack your robots and actually utilize them.
For those that are watching the video, you'll see up in the top left, you'll see like the robot that I have, the ammo that I have, and there's one that says Feline 1. That's actually one of the
kitty bot.
Kitty bots.
Kitty bot.
Yep. And then another aspect that we should probably talk on is this is more like an RPG, like survival RPG, because there is an upgrade track to this, which you can do.
Yeah, and crafting too.
Yeah, we'll get to the crafting because that's fairly intensive.
Yeah, I had just started on that.
So this is pretty straightforward. As you explore, you get chips. The more things you find, like weather stations, that's something else we'll have to discuss as far as the gameplay in a second. So once you get a certain amount of chips and you level up, you can level up. You use your armor. You can level up your charge speed on your guns. You can have more damage. It's very straightforward. Carry more items and endurance. The running is actually very limited at first. If you're in a big spacesuit carrying a big space gun, that would do it too. So
yeah.
An interesting thing. You can also upgrade your companion robots as well.
Yes.
So like if you notice in here, like I have upgraded my mecha's health, and I have upgraded their damage a little bit. So there's certain things you can do with that, and I believe you can have up to 4 from what I remember.
Yeah, I've only had 2 so far.
Yeah. And they will tremendously help you not die.
Yeah. and I like how they have their little on the station. There's the deck for them that you can upgrade them, and they have their little chambers. It's really really well done, actually.
Yep, and that's definitely something I did like about that. It's another small touch. So like right now I'm going down through the clouds in the Skylift. So like just to give you guys an idea of like kind of the scale of it. The islands aren't huge, like
Yeah.
that you're actually on.
Mhm.
They're not the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, I had gone to the where you crash land originally. I spent an hour just on that map, going
Mhm.
around the whole, traversing the whole map and collecting assets and just I enjoy that part of the game, the open world exploration element. So I wasn't in a hurry to, finish the missions.
On these islands, each one's kind of got like almost a different theme or a different look to it. There's one later in the game you get one that's like basically a desert. There's different stuff that goes with it. When you get to one of the islands, and the one we're looking at right now is the second island, and it's just a few trees and a plain of grass.
Yeah.
But
grass is pretty.
the thing I love about this is it's like the small little details that are almost like Horizon Zero Dawn, because like you'll see like the wind kind of blow over the grass,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you can see it for as far as you can actually see in the game and go to, and
Yeah.
then you'll see like the storm element, which is a gameplay element.
That was that was one of my favorite things about it, actually.
Yeah, it's just nice things like that that you normally wouldn't see, and it's like the grass is all, from what we're seeing, what I'm seeing right now, it's all red. It's just little little
Yeah, that
artistic
first
touches
map.
like that, little artistic touches like that make it really cool.
Yeah, the tornadoes were cool. They kill you pretty quickly, so you got to be very careful.
Yes, they do.
But one of the things I was enjoying when I was going around the map is going to all the ionizers, and at the ionizers, weather ionizers, they help make the storm less intense, and that's where you can do your saves too for the game,
Yep.
which was really really convenient. So you just walk every few minutes. There's an ionizer, and you can keep going. Otherwise, if you don't go to an ionizer, you die pretty quickly from the storm.
Yeah, so the storm it takes it up a few different elements. You'll see it's kind of like this blue hue around where things are becoming a trouble spot, shall we say? And there will be tornadoes. There will be lightning, which is
Yeah, you get
usually
struck sometimes.
yeah, you will get struck, and it will kill you shortly.
Yes.
This game is very exploration heavy. So one of the things though is crafting, and I'm gonna let you mostly talk about that, Joe, because it's an interesting mechanic. I want to get your take on it, as seeing how you had just gotten into it, and I'm only showing a very early portion of the game right now.
I had literally just started it, like my second hour of play. So I haven't used it too much. I've been starting to do upgrades to the ship
Mhm.
and whatnot, but I haven't really built anything big yet.
For those that are wondering, the upgrade mechanic or the crafting system, it's really they're kind of intertwined. Basically, what it allows you to do is upgrade your ship, repair your ship, but you'll go around as you explore, and it's kind of like an Altair type game, Altair like Ryza type game, where you go around and it's fetch quest, collecting quest, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah, of course.
But but it has a core purpose to the game.
Yes.
And
like you were saying before, it's very RPG like in how you craft.
yeah, it's all menu driven, and it's
Yeah.
very menu heavy and stuff. But for this particular game, it actually works really well. The thing that I found that I liked the most about it, though, was the fact that it was tied so centrally to like the rest of the game. Because usually, like the crafting system's either really
The rest of the game,
it really integral or not.
yeah, even in No Man's Sky when it was new, it was a little disjointed the way you did your crafting from the rest of the game, but they've fixed that. They unified it better. And this game unified it, right off the bat. I didn't feel like I was doing like crafting like I did was on other games.
Yeah, definitely. So right now I'm in combat, and for those that want to know how this plays
Yes.
out, right mouse gives you a charge shot basically for your firearm. And we'll get into the no, can't take it anymore.
And the shooting, hitting right. Yeah. that was one of my big complaints about the game.
Yeah. Because
is using the right mouse button to use an item or a gun and simultaneously shoot with the left mouse button is a little awkward.
Yep. It really is, not gonna lie. So that, and the longer you hold the scoped version of the right click, it actually charges up the firearm. Oh,
yeah.
I'm probably gonna die, so this will be fun.
Okay. and the other thing, actually, the camera positions can sometimes be too close or too far, so it would be nice to have more control over that. But this game is actually better than most with the camera. You don't always go through the landscape or items like a lot of Unity games suffer from.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
yeah,
that is one thing that happens a lot in a lot of Unity games, is that, like, you will fall through things and all the other jazz, and it's really kind of depressing sometimes because it's like, oh, I died again.
Yeah,
and then it works, and you're like, oh, okay.
Thinking of another element is that the WASD movement is actually quite good and not too soft or sluggish. Unity games have a tendency to suffer from movement, and a little bit too soft, not as quick and sharp and fast. So, but this game did a really nice job. It has a nice balance of not too sharp, but with just enough give.
I wouldn't call it fluid, but it feels right.
Yeah, it feels right for the game. Yeah, you're right.
I'm trying to think of a game comparison that I can really use it. Probably maybe like a Killzone kind of game, as far as like there feels like a weight to the game, to it, but it's not overdone.
Correct.
Because you are in a foreign planet, you are in a Space Marine outfit of types, and so it just kind of works like with that mind frame, I guess, and that's kind of why I think it's a really cool what they do with that, because
the movement definitely fits in with the atmosphere.
It does. And speaking of the keyboard controls, I like the fact that basically everything is tied to, sorry for those that aren't left-handed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in fairness, you can change the controls to
arrows if you need to. Or you can JKI.
You can change it to whatever you want. So there is that. So for those that are of the left-handed type, there you go.
It's funny because I sometimes will play with my mouse on my left. I'm kind of a little bit ambidextrous, so I've played with the mouse on both sides, so I understand the pain for some people.
Yeah. This episode of Gamester is brought to you by Bitwarden. Get started right now with your free account at bitwarden.com/DLN. A password manager is software that allows you to have the peace of mind knowing that your online accounts are safe. How does it do that? Well, securing your online accounts is very important, because the best security practice for your passwords is to have different passwords for every account on every website that you go to. Sure, this makes sense as a policy, but without a password manager, that also makes things very, very painful to do. Bitwarden solves this by providing tools to store all your passwords in a secured vault, auto-generate those passwords for you, and even automatically fill in those passwords on login forms so you don't have to. You can access your data across many types of devices, like your web browser, using their mobile apps, desktop applications, or even the command line. Bitwarden seals your private data with end-to-end encryption before it ever leaves your devices, so you know that you're the only person with access to your data. Bitwarden is the password manager that I use and trust, because in addition to all these great features, it's also 100% open source software. That's right, 100% open source, which means the features and security of their infrastructure can be vetted and improved by the community. They don't just stop there. They also bring in third-party security firms to audit their code to make sure it is secure as possible. Go to bitwarden.com/DLN to get started. And did I mention you can get started for free? Well, you can. But I think you'll want to check out their premium accounts anyway, because you get 1 gig of encrypted file storage, 2-step logins with YubiKey, two-factor authentication, and Duo, Vault Health Reports, Bitwarden Authenticator, and Priority Customer Service. And you get all this for just $10 a year. Make the smart move, like many, from the DLN community and go to bitwarden.com/DLN. This lets you get the peace of mind for your passwords and other sensitive data while also supporting a company that truly gets open source. Sign up for their $10 a year premium account to let them know you appreciate them for supporting open source and supporting the GameSphere podcast. Go to bitwarden.com/DLN and get started. Thanks again to Bitwarden for sponsoring GameSphere. Would you make a recommendation to continue to play this game, Jill, or would you make a recommendation to you continue to play this as well?
No, I definitely would. I think, yeah, and it's worth $9.99 for sure. And I think it's fun. I'm going to continue playing this game. And in fact, because of this game, I'm going to go back to their original, the Far Sky Interactive. Their original game is called Far Sky. It was a short underwater exploration game, and I'd actually never gone through that. And I'm going to buy their newer one, their last one with the free ones, because that one's really up my alley. That's more of a game like A Story About My Uncle, where it's a first-person parkour 3D platform adventure exploration game.
Yeah,
but this game I can definitely recommend, especially to people who like survival games and who like No Man's Sky, or Astroneer is another one. I remember Astroneer came out that same year too.
Yeah, there were a lot of sci-fi inspired games that year.
Yeah, Surviving Mars came a little bit later.
Yep.
And then if you like Ark Survival Evolved, which I enjoy.
Jill playing a first-person dinosaur. Okay, the dinosaur riding mode make okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the dinosaur riding. I don't care about anything else. I just want to ride the dinosaurs.
Makes sense. So, I totally agree that this is a game that is definitely worth the $10 that it is. And yeah. I tend to be one that's like, for every dollar I spend, I want at least an hour of enjoyment. You can easily get 10 hours of enjoyment out of this just by exploring and trying to craft and upgrade your stuff. Totally easily enough to do.
Cool. Matt, did you finish the game?
I have not, because
you have more to play.
For me, this would be a game that I would finish playing eventually. My problem is it's on the backlog list, just not primary on the backlog list. Because I made certain proposals this year that I was going to work on the backlog list. So this will probably be getting done this year. I just don't know when. But playing it now reminds me of why I want to complete it, because I just love the aesthetic and all that stuff to it.
And it's got that uniqueness with being able to use the mechas around you and kitty bots, and there were llama bots too.
there are actually, if you go to, as soon as you get to the second island,
yes,
you will run into some level 2 llama bots, which is funny because you the only ones you've interacted with are like the feline ones. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have like, they almost remind,
and they're really neat looking. Mechas are all good looking. They're very, very skeletal, but very artistically done, and they look pretty. They're not ugly.
There's this the art, the
science fiction element.
The art style that they went with doesn't detract, it accentuates.
Yeah.
And
that's what I remind. Like, I'm sorry, I interrupted a bit, but I was thinking. It reminded me of a little bit of flipping through an art book, which I dearly love. It has that element to it, and if you love exploration games, this one is perfect. Just looking at the environments and the atmospheres, and I took a lot of screenshots, and that's been one of my favorite things about No Man's Sky. When I'm playing No Man's Sky, I don't usually do survival mode, because I just like to explore the environment. So with this game, it lets you explore the environment, but you still have to be careful that you avoid the storms, but it lets you progress in whatever way you want to progress, slowly or quickly with the missions.
Yeah, like if you want to explore, it totally lets you. If you want to just knock out every single like story focused mission, that will determine your overall level of enjoyment of the game, I think. For me, I think it's more of the very open-ended exploration with the story stuff kind of being there and kind of getting to it at your own pace. That's why I do like games like this, games like Valley and those kind of games too, that they want you to explore. They want you to try stuff. And that to me is really, really cool. I wish more companies would do that. This is by Far Sky Interactive. They are no longer currently a company, but these games show that they had a unique approach to, I think, to gaming. So we've talked a little bit about the story. We've talked about some of the gameplay, what kind of worked, didn't work. Jill, if there was one negative you had to give, now I know this goes against your character. If there was one negative, what would you give?
Maybe a little bit more challenging puzzles on the hacking. Yeah, I guess that would be. It's not a strong negative, but it is there. And some of the gameplay mechanics, like we were talking about earlier, with the mouse movement and aiming.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, a little more challenging puzzles. A lot like what I get with the Talos Principle, which is also one of my favorite games.
So for those that are wondering what the hacking puzzles are like, the best example I have is probably the Spider-Man game from on PS4 or PS5,
okay.
which would give the best example of what it's a radial hacking game that you have to move portions and pieces until you have the outer radial matching the inner, interlocks with the inner. It's not complicated, generically speaking.
Usually, I'm positive they probably did that because they wanted to make it more accessible for new users to survival games.
Yeah, very much. I think it was a design choice. I don't think it was because they couldn't make a decent puzzle.
Yeah, harder puzzle. Yeah,
that's usually not the case. But I think they were going for atmospheric survival type game here. And honestly, I think they really, really, really nailed it, and I love it for that.
Yeah, this is a game I can highly recommend. In fact, I've talked to a few people who played it who had a hard time getting through it, and I didn't understand that. I was like, but it's got such a nice pace, and you can do it at your own speed. I mean, maybe because it didn't quite have as much action or adventure in it as some people wanted, or shoot 'em up. But that's not what this game was about.
No, this is. I will say that this is a very specific game for a very specific type of person.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of what this whole series is, though. This whole game sphere thing is about now is like, I'm not a big survival fan. Literally the only MMO I'll go and play, and you can whether or not you quantify it as an MMO is up for debate, is I'll literally go play Warframe, and that's the only game, multiplayer.
Oh, yeah.
That is literally the only MMO type game I'll go and play, or survival type game. Only one I'll play because I'm not a fan of. I've tried games like Savage Land, and I just can't get into them.
Can't get into them, yeah.
But this, because I'm going to be blunt, I don't have to deal with people.
Yeah. Yes.
It's definitely more up my alley because it gives me that pace that I can go to. Do I want to run through it? Do I not? I don't have people hassling me about the pace I'm going at, which is something that I find in a lot of survival games.
Yeah, that's my complaint too about a lot of survival games. You have to do that mission.
Yeah.
Or it falls apart.
And it's like, I don't want to. I want to explore the world. I want to see what's going on in it. I want to know the lore. And it's like, nope, you got to do this mission. I don't want to.
And you know what? When No Man's Sky came out, everyone was complaining about it because truly, it was released as an early access game. Let's face it, it was.
Very much.
But I liked exploring the environment. I didn't care about the space battles and all that. It's a definitely a simpler world. It's not this huge procedural universe
No,
that No Man's
not.
Sky is. But because of that simplicity and that minimalism, and they stuck to the artistic style of very minimalism. Oh, also the colors, very, very muted colors. There's a lot of bright colors, but they're all about the same luminosity.
Yeah, definitely very true.
Yeah.
Almost, I can't think of like a color tint that they would have to it, but almost like a weird like sepia tone type of
sepia tone.
Yeah.
Yes. Perfect.
Kind of filter on it almost. Yeah. It's not overdone. It's not like a bad Instagram one where there's something like that. But it's very, very lightly touched. And it's almost like a color correction almost of how they apply it. And I think that's really tastefully done there. But yeah, as far as this game though, overall, I would have loved to see what more they could have done with this game. I really would have, if they were still around. They supported this game, I believe, up until they got done as a company. So they did a lot of support for this, and I think the last update that I remember was 2018. So 2 years of support for a game after its release is actually really good nowadays.
Yeah.
And so overall, I would probably give this like a 40 out of 50 in my opinion. Like for the cost to the actual gameplay, there's not a lot to critique as far as like they know what they wanted to do and they got out what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the overall game feels like it's a get in and get out. It's not, it doesn't feel like it's trying to overstay what it's doing.
Yeah. I think 40 out of 50. That's about right where I am too.
Jill, when can people find you online?
Oh boy. Found at Linux Gamecast, doing gaming there. And I do a show there, Linux news show called Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays on Wednesdays. But I'm a proud member of the Destination Linux Network.
And we are very proud to have you.
Oh, this has been so much fun, Matt.
I always enjoy talking about games. And again, the whole point of this is I would have played this eventually, but this is something that was really far down on that like 1,000+ game list. And the fact that for the show and I ended up playing this, that it definitely went much, much higher on that gotta finish list. So this is as just as much of an exploration of gaming for me as it is for game recommendations that other people might not normally play. And I think that's awesome. That's a fun thing because I want to experience. The only way to experience gaming as a whole is to kind of put aside, like it's kind of like in music, put aside your kind of personal, like my preferred tastes, and just kind of open the floodgates and see what happens. I might find something I like, and that to me is really cool to do. And I don't know. I'm just weird that way, I guess.
Well, I've been enjoying on Destination Linux. I sometimes do the game reviews, and I'm really loving that. And then playing games here for GameSphere, which has been really fun. So I get to play games on all the places I'm in, which I love.
So how many 8-bit games has Ryan and Michael subjugated you to so far?
Oh, there have been quite a few. Yes.
Inside joke for those that don't know.
Yeah.
But Jill, I'm glad to have had this opportunity to kind of talk to you that we both played this game.
Yeah.
And you guys know what to do. You know, you got the comment section, you got the ratings, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. It's your prerogative. Probably thumbs up, but if not, I get it. And so whatever. At the end of the day, Jill, thank you for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Matt. This was so much fun.
It definitely was. And I hope, don't worry, you'll be back on. But
Yay!
I'm not going to be the only gamer on here.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be trying to introduce people to gaming, but man, I'm not going to be the only gamer on here every episode.
Yeah. And make sure to check out all our great content here on Destination Linux. We've got Deal and Extend with Matt here. Matt and Wendy and Nate.
Oh, they'll be on. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see them playing games on here. And we got Hardware Addicts with Ryan, Michael, and Wendy. We've of course got Destination Linux with me and Noah and Ryan and Michael on Sundays.
We also have Ask Noah too.
Yeah, and we have
weekly
Noah
radio
Chalaya.
show. Yep.
Yeah.
You want the weekly
show.
AskNoahShow.com. If you want the weekly radio show, all his information's there. Always a great conversations with what Noah's going on and the rest of the network. If you are looking to get in contact with me, you can find me at MattDLN on Twitter, so you can tell me how wrong I am about my gaming choices.
Aw, I think they're perfect, Matt. And I'm on Twitter at Jill_LinuxGirl.
And with that, you can find any other information for the Destination Linux network at destinationlinux.network.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys later.